time in this place is irrelevant, and so, because of that, Salexi and their minions have plenty of time, if you can even call it that, to do whatever it is they please. If it's not preparing for this great crusade, or if it's getting up to whatever malicious actions of their own, they have plenty of time. And with this endless amount of time, and the unnerving level of stillness in this realm, and all that absurd quiet, one begins to think, and sometimes, when you have too much time to think, they think a little too hard. They start to ask themselves great questions. Who are we? Why are we here? And what am I to become? But for some, it may be a bit too much thinking that leads to forgotten traumas that are best left forgotten. And so I say to you, dear listener, such a thought does occur within the stillness of this realm, within the balconies of Salexi's castle, as Salexi lays there enjoying a drink, looking on the desolation, with their faithful butler Timothy standing beside them, serving them as they always do. "Why, thank you, my dearest Timothy," they say as Timothy pours him another glass of tea. "We have been here for so long, and yet I never really get tired of just staring off at all this desolation. Not because I am inherently wicked and just enjoy such destruction, but because there is a beauty in the quiet stillness of the end. It's something that a lot of people crave, but don't usually think about. It's poetic in a way, isn't it, Timothy?" Timothy nods and bows. "I cannot even count how many times I've stared off into this oblivion and went into very poetic thoughts about my existence and that of the whole universe and whatnot. Sometimes I even get bored of being so goddamn poetic and philosophical. But yet, this place brings it out in you, doesn't it?" Timothy once again nods silently. Salexi stares at the liquid in their cup, slightly swirling it around, and then they look off into the oblivion, and then look up at Timothy, just staring at them, as Timothy just sits there, emotionless, stone-like, staring off into the horizon. Probably not even any thoughts going through there, as they are just a giant soul golem at this point. And then Salexi says, "You know, Timothy, sometimes I envy you. You have a very simplistic way of life. You serve, and that is all. The rest of all these philosophical ideas about, heaven and hell and God and whatever doesn't matter to you. I can respect it to a degree." And then, in that moment, for once in over thousands of years, something incredible happened, but yet to us seems so minor. Timothy, for once, without orders of being told, moved their head slightly to the left just to look at Salexi as Salexi looks off into the horizon, on their own free will. This was usually unheard of. Their will was not their own, and for them to do this was very different indeed. Salexi is still looking onto the horizon and not noticing Timothy looking at them yet. Timothy normally requires sign language to speak to anyone, but with the special bond that Salexi and Timothy have, Timothy and Salexi can speak to each other telepathically. However, it is not in normal words. It's more like ghostly wails, or even a spectral whisper, that even if anyone else could hear it, only Salexi and Timothy, or very few select individuals, could actually understand it. Salexi then immediately spits the tea out mid-sip as they cough and look over at Timothy, looking back at them without orders. Timothy, you spoke in the voice. You haven't done that since... Timothy, what are you thinking right now? Look at me.
Yes,
You are feeling right now. When you say feeling, do you mean physically, or are you talking about emotionally? Please be specific, for that is very important. Timothy then raises his hands and stares at his palms, moving his fingers in and out. It looks as though he's having an existential crisis, which, for anyone else in this realm, that would be quite normal. In fact, it's seen on a regular basis. But for Timothy, this is completely unheard of. You are seeing visions of your memories? Oh, no, Timothy, look at me. Put your hands down. Look at me in the eyes. Don't think about it any further. Just listen to me. Look at me. Timothy did not listen. They continued to stare at the palms of their hands as memories rush into their mind. Now, Timothy, you listen to me. I order you to stop thinking what you're thinking right now and look at me. Timothy, with their enormous hand, immediately grabs Salexi's slender neck and lifts them up as they choke them. Timothy being 14 feet tall and Salexi being 11, and of course, Timothy being a walking refrigerator, practically lifts them with ease. With but one swift hand motion, they could easily snap Salexi's neck if they so pleased. Yes! I suppressed your memories! I had no choice!
Come on, me.
Because you told me to. It was your last wish. Timothy then loosens their grip and drops Salexi on the ground, as Salexi rubs their own neck and tries to recuperate. Timothy now rubbing their head, wondering, why would they wipe away their own memories? Well, when you were, let's just say, still mortal, it was your last wish. Not only did you tell me to wipe away your memories, you told me to give you a new purpose and never speak of what happened ever again, even if you asked me to. There are very few times I keep a promise, but that one in particular, I will take to the end of my days. No, you don't. And that's not an order. That's a suggestion. You know all the terrible things I've done. Even I shudder in fear at what your past self before you were named Timothy, have done. I don't think you want to remember. Yes, it's that bad. Timothy stares at Salexi, then looks down, takes a pause, and looks up at the sky. He thinks for a long time, then eventually looks back at Salexi and says, Yes, of course. I will grant you the peace of your silence once again. Just hold still. Bring your head down to me, please. Salexi places their hand upon Timothy's mask, and with a little bit of magic as it flows from the palm of Salexi's hand and into the mask begins to dig further into Timothy's flesh, becoming even more part of his body. It is uncanny. It is as if someone is taking a piece of metal and pushing it deeper and deeper into someone's skin to the point of where you might as well be crushing it into their very bones. But Timothy, like the golem he is, stands still. Pain is irrelevant to them, and they feel nothing. Salexi removes their hand. Timothy goes silent once more, the mute as they always have been. They look at Salexi, they bow, and they say in sign language, "Will you require anything else, my lord?" To which Salexi replies, "No, my dear Timothy, that will be all. You may remove yourself until I call you again." Timothy bows, turns around like a toy soldier, and stomps away back into the castle. Oh, Cole, you little meat gremlin. I can hear you up there.
Yeah? What of it, you flowery git?
How dare you eavesdrop on such a critical conversation? Who am I kidding? It's not like I could actually stop you anyway.
Nope. Anyways, what's up with tall, dark, and muscly?
It is nothing. Pay it no mind, Cole.
Oh, no. We ain't doing that. I may be a simple woman, but I ain't stupid. He choked you, you scream about his memories and such, he says nothing, and then you do some fancy pants magic-y pokery, and then he walks away like nothing happened. That ain't nothing, boss.
Oh, well, that's fair enough, I suppose. Well, I'll try my best to condense it as hard as I can, but, it's a lot.
Oh, I smell more.
You smell a lot of things.
I sniff my feet sometimes.
But why? That's so unhygienic.
Helps me know where I've been and where the prey is. Anyway, go off then.
When Timothy was alive during roughly the medieval era to the Dark Ages, they served a king in their army ever since they were a child, all the way up to adulthood, killing and slaying, and they were quite good at it. However, they did not want it anymore, inevitably. They, like any weary old soldier, wanted to be free eventually. And they begged and pleaded to their king to try and be free of this constant life of violence. He begged and he pleaded to his tyrannical king to grant him this freedom, and the king smirked and granted them their freedom on one condition. They had to do one more grand act of violence first before they could be free. This final act was that he was to go to a church filled with orphan children, nuns, and old monks, and he was charged with slaying them all without mercy. Strong was his resolve, and steel was in his eyes, as he goes to slay them, emotionless, and he's full of determination with the sole ideal of just being free. He finishes his bloody task, and he goes to his king to report on it, and his king made good on his promise, at least for the most part. He was given a lovely home off in the middle of nowhere, isolated from all society. And then an angry mob appeared to kill Timothy, and leading this angry mob was his own king, the one who granted them their freedom at last for committing such a bloody deed. Apparently, the people in that church that he slew on that day were people who were outright protesting against the king, and the king didn't like that, but the king knew that he couldn't send his own army to slay them. That would make him look bad. So instead, he framed Timothy as a crazed madman off the leash, without orders, slaying all of those poor innocent people. Timothy, of course, shouted and protested, but the crowd did not want to listen. Timothy, filled with incessant rage, lashed out at the crowd and killed as many as he could before he finally went down. He went down, dying as the monster the king told everyone that he was. Of course, when he did eventually die, he was hoping that maybe in death he'll finally have his peace. But no, of course not. He was thrown in hell like the rest of us, to suffer and languish. There was even the slight slim hope that maybe they'd be redeemed, as Charlie was trying to advertise. But at this point, Timothy was just so tired of clinging on to hope, when hope was all but gone to them. Even at the potential prospect that they might be free, it didn't matter to them. It, of course, was not long before I met them and offered them the peace that they finally wanted. But they didn't care anymore. They didn't want or need for anything. All they wanted was oblivion. I even was blunt to them and told them that if I consume their soul, that they will enter a peaceful afterlife, a paradise that I have created. As false as it may be, it is still a paradise nonetheless. But he didn't care. He didn't even want that anymore. Hope was completely removed from this man. For once in a very long time, I actually felt sympathy for this victim, sympathy for Timothy, for I too was once in this depressive state that he was. And so, instead of consuming his soul, I gave him a very special offer. I would give him a true and final actual end. He accepted, and I completely removed and wiped away all of his memories, bringing him to a final conclusive end. But his body was now a hollow soul golem, not like my usual minions or the creatures that roam this place, but something different. A giant, muscular, almost near unkillable soul golem, of where his sole purpose in life is simply to be a faithful butler. But now, I fear that his old memories are beginning to slowly scratch the surface, and I can't let that happen. Not necessarily because I fear his ire, but because I can't even imagine what that kind of depressing knowledge would do to a person.
You didn't do that mind shit to us, did ya?
No. Timothy is the only one in my entire court, perhaps my whole legion, that is like this. All of you retain your own memories, and all of my butler thralls, while they seem hollow, at least their original mind and consciousness is inside of me, living their little wet dreams. But no, Timothy, however, is a blank slate. The only blank slate.
Well, that's good then.
Yes. It is a fate only reserved for very specific individuals. And I've only ever had to do that once.
By the by, I noticed that old Tim has a buttload of old wounds on him under them fancy clothes. Is that all fighty holes from enemies what gave him a good stabbing?
My dearest Cole, those wounds are not from enemies. They are self-inflicted.
Oh, that's heavy. Wait a bleeding minute! He's got a hole in him the size of my head! How's he still alive? Is he a zombie?
A marvelous question. Even I, nor even Melinda, know. He has a very special form of immortality. I mean, I do too, but I can be killed, but I rise back up over and over like some stubborn cockroach. He, on the other hand, he just doesn't die. He's been impaled, stabbed, cut, incinerated, shot, crushed, and yet he still walks. I shuddered to fear if he ever were to turn on us.
Oh, he's dead hard. Oh, can yous make me like that?
Don't you think that if I knew how to do that, I'd probably have a legion of Timothys at this point? But no, I do not. All of the wrong things had to happen in the right way to make something like that.
Fair enough. Maybe if he goes crazy again with depression, I can eat him. Then I can be the artist.
He is far more useful to us alive than he is dead. But I will admit that I have sometimes thought of a fail-safe in case of things go sideways with old Tim. But I have not yet figured out what exactly to do if that were to happen. Hopefully it never will.